singer.
Hey Nathan, we're just about ready to start, so I'm putting my phone here, and I don't know if you're able to watch on TV or not, but
Yep. All right.
I'm just going to go on mute once I got something to say.
Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Education district meeting for Monday, February 11th. Madam Secretary, would you help us take roll and determine a quorum?
Sure. Director DeBeat?
Here.
Drava?
Here.
Finn? Finn?
Here.
Thank you. Mather?
Here via telephone.
McCarter?
Here.
Neighbor?
Here.
Wildermuth? A quorum is present.
Great, thank you. If you would all stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome all of our visitors this evening that are with us, that have braved the elements. We appreciate you coming. If you're joining us at home in the warmth of maybe fuzzy socks and on your sofa, we appreciate you tuning in as well. A next item on our agenda is our Citizen Speaks portion of the agenda. And since our audience members are district employees, I'm going to make an assumption that we will not have a Citizen Speak this evening. The next thing on our agenda is a student council update. And as of this evening, with the weather being the way that it is, I'm pleased to say our student council members are home where they're safe. Not pleased that they're home, pleased that they're home where they're safe. But they did share an update that they would like to have shared with the board. On Friday, February 1st, we hosted our annual Bowls for Hunger fundraiser. Proceeds from this event led us to be able to make a total hunger drive donation of $4,900 to MCSA. We are very proud of this accomplishment and want to thank all the students and community members that helped to raise this money. Despite the rough weather and lack of school the last few weeks, senior survivor candidates have been working hard to fundraise for the competition. They developed many creative ways to fundraise, include hosting trivia nights and competing in half-court shots at the basketball games. Senior Survivor Week will still take place on March 4th through March 8th, and they are in the process of planning some really great community challenges that will be advertised to the community in the following weeks. The recent weather has also delayed the annual winter thaw. The rescheduled date is now planned to be Saturday, February 23rd in the MHS cafeteria, with the exact time to be determined. Hopefully the weather will allow us to have the dance, since it is a major contributor to funding prom, which will take place on May 4th. And if the weather doesn't straighten out by May 4th, we're all in a lot of trouble. So
maybe a snow prom.
Yeah, there you go, snow prom. What everyone has always, every young lady and gentleman has always dreamed of. So that is our student council update, and I appreciate their tenacity to provide that to us so that we can still share the many great things that they're doing, because they've been busy. Next on our agenda takes us to our board targets and our goals report, and I'm going to read what our 3 items are, just because I think it's really important that we always keep this in front of us, and that is those targets and goals are: students will graduate prepared for post-secondary options, Muscatine schools will utilize resources effectively and equitably, and students will learn in a positive and supportive environment. Jerry.
And we do not have an explicit report tonight.
Okay,
so.
All right. So the next item that we have on our agenda is the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine by the Board of Education and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a director so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence from the agenda. Those items are minutes, employment recommendations, bills and claims, special ed contracts, and student teaching agreements. What are the wishes of the board?
I'll move the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
And opposed? And the motion carries. And I even heard our remote voters, so I appreciate that, using our technology tonight to make sure we bring all of our board members in. Following through then on our agenda, the next item that you have is to accept and place on file the audit for FY18. However, unlike many things with the weather, I believe that we are going to table that until our March meeting. Is that correct, Tom?
Correct. The auditor wasn't able to make it tonight.
Okay, so it is done.
It is done.
All looks good, but so that we don't have anybody traveling 40-plus miles one direction, we'll hold off to do that. And the time frame for that with our requirements for the state, we still have plenty of time.
Yep, March 31st is the due date.
Okay, so we will cover that at our March meeting. The next item on our agenda then is to approve the proposed plans, specification, proposed form of contract, and other estimated costs of said improvement for the MHS Science STEM project.
And that is last month, the architect and our science department provided a background as to what the proposed plans and specs will look like for that project. This is the next step in that for the board to approve those so that the architect can begin the process of letting bids. So I don't know if anyone has any questions from last month's presentation of those. If so, we'd certainly try and answer those.
So a lot of information was given to us last month that we went over, and a lot of good discussion. Does anyone have any additional questions they would like to ask? And if not,
The mic is very high,
Yeah.
very loud for me, but anyway, I try to stay away from that. I would like to move to approve the proposed plans, specification, proposed form of contract, and other estimated costs of said improvements for the MHS Science STEM project.
and is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the proposed plans as have been previously presented and reviewed. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And the motion carries. The next item on our agenda is to approve the Muscatine Preschool Alliance contract.
And Principal McConaughey will give us some information on that. I can tell you this is, we've had this vetted by our attorney. We made some changes based on our attorney's recommendation, and Joelle will be able to, if you have any questions or anything about the contract, she'll be able to answer those.
Sure. So yeah, all of you have the contract in front of you, and I will be meeting with our preschool directors here in the next few weeks. And so if you had any questions regarding the contract, I could answer those.
And if there are no questions, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move that we accept the Muscatine Preschool Alliance contract. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to present the contract, to accept the contract as presented. Just a quick look, Joelle, there weren't a lot of dramatic changes this is a little bit of a template and what we do each year as we go through this process.
Exactly.
So,
Yep.
okay.
All right.
If there's not any other discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
And opposed? And the motion carries. That takes us through our action items for this evening's meeting. The next item on our agenda, these items are for discussion and information purposes. And item A is a possible renaming of the middle school.
Yeah, we, in the fall of 2020, we will be consolidating and having one 7/8 grade building. And it has come up in some different conversations that might be a time to look at renaming West. to really kind of bring it into, it is starting a new time and to give it a new name. There is our board process in policy is, a committee is formed and you get some input and it comes back to the board for action. Mike has been doing some research on some of the way some other districts handle naming facilities. But I thought it would be good, since we're, a little more than a year away from the change, if the board is interested in moving in that direction, that we start that process. I think there is some, it is going to be a new and different venture for the district. And it's not so much a loss of Central or a gain for West, but it's a new and different approach for Muscatine. And so it gives us an opportunity, if we would like to recognize someone to have the building named after. I think it gives us a great opportunity for that. And I thought it good if we would have some time to discuss what the board's thoughts are with that.
When you said a name, it sounded as though you were talking about a person. Is there also a possibility of a generic kind of district name that would fit? I mean, like the high school's not named.
Right.
Would that be something to consider for here, or are we thinking that there may be some members of the community that would be that we could honor in such a way, or are we looking at someone who's a state or national figure?
I think if we go down the road of renaming it, I think it gives us an opportunity to recognize someone that has made significant contributions to the community. I think a generic name, we kind of lose out on being able to take an opportunity to really celebrate our history.
Okay.
I would recommend it be a local person and not a national person. And I think we have there's a number of folks that have come through Muscatine that have made a significant impact in Muscatine, in Iowa, and the nation. I think of Alexander Clark, someone that was the second African American to graduate from University of Iowa Law School, his son being the first. An ambassador, a United States ambassador, certainly has a great story and could possibly send a great message to a lot of kids. But I also think there's other folks that we would want to look at. But I think it's a great opportunity for us to really celebrate our history.
Jerry, this is Aaron. Would the process just be run internally, or would we need external help or cost or anything like that, or would we just do something internally and involve the community, or how would that work?
Yeah, the board policy is really pretty general. We would you would get a committee together, involve the community, so the community has voice on that committee. There shouldn't be a lot of cost involved, but it does give. I think the value in having that process is that you really get a lot of people in the community taking a look at our past and thinking about how do we want to and what do we want to celebrate. And oftentimes that's about the only time a community does that, is when they're in the midst of what are you going to name something. I think it could be a real positive experience for not only for the school district but for the whole community.
Okay.
And Jerry, what kind of time frame would you be thinking?
Well, I think if this spring we could start those conversations, get a committee together, would be good. That gives us all of next year to kind of work on that and get that in place. And then, and so that it could be officially named before that first day of school for those kids going to the new building.
I think it's a great way to bring, to celebrate the two buildings coming together. And as you say, it's not a loss of one necessarily and an addition to the other, but really reuniting and energizing for that new building.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on that topic? And do I sense the board consensus is that yes, we would like to move forward with this?
So next month, Mike, maybe you could I know you've been doing some research on how some other districts do this naming. Maybe next month Mike could present what a process could look like, and we could start moving forward so that this spring we could have a committee up and running.
Okay.
Yeah, and I really like the idea of what Tammy, you said, and Jerry, it's not a loss here and again there. It's about inclusion, bringing something new that everybody is part of. So I really like this idea. Thanks.
I really like the Alexander Clark example as well, selfishly. Speaking of inclusion and bringing people together, and a great piece of our history. And yeah, there's a million, not that there's not other great names as well, but I like that one a lot.
Muscatine has a rich history. And oftentimes we don't talk about it enough. We don't celebrate it enough.
Agree. All right. That takes us to our review of our December 2018 financials or 2019 financials. I think 18. Right?
Yes.
Time feels like it's flying, but
I didn't
not
even,
that fast.
I do not have a crystal ball, so that wouldn't work. So in the preliminary board book, I just explained about a few changes to the financials, so I'll try to go through them. The treasurer's report really does not go unchanged. It just, I'm adding a comparison to December, same time, same month, prior year comparison. I do have an asterisk by PEPL fund, and that's just a timing of when we paid. We got a bunch of buses in December that were paid for, and they should have really come out of capital or save. So that adjustment just is going to be made in January. So not save and PEPL are pretty much the same purchases. So it's just something that came through and didn't get caught in time before this December report. So the next page is a different look on the general fund monthly board report. I took the 3-page report that we were looking at, and I just condensed it to 1 page. I tried to give a comparison. So one thing I'm trying to do with all these reports is try to give the board a comparison of where we were at, say, the prior year. And in order to get everything onto 1 page for the general fund, I had to condense it down to maybe a 3-month period. So I'm showing you October, November, December, the annual budget first, not the monthly budget like we had before. That was that's very useful in a cash flow projection, what our cash requirements would be, but I think for our purposes and reporting, we just want to look at our total budget for the year. And then if you look at the general fund, the top part obviously is the revenues, the bottom part is the expenditures. I have put in gray those areas where we have miscellaneous income, and when we get talking about next year's budget, and every year we talk about how important miscellaneous income is. So I just kind of highlighted those areas that are considered miscellaneous income.
Tom, I notice our expenditures are almost the exact same percentage they were last year.
And that could be So that would be good.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yes.
thinking that.
That's a good comparison, right? So we want that, you know, if it was different, obviously that would throw up some sort of flag. So,
Tom, I like the 3-month comparison. I mean, it's a great way to see where have we been current and what that trend is like, and then it's easy to glance to say, okay, what does that look like in comparison to a year ago?
and in finance, we do a lot of that, especially towards the end
Yeah.
of the year when we're comparing our year-end balances. So it's very helpful to do that throughout the year.
It's a lot easier to see trend data that way,
So-
so thank you for that.
So, as I said, I put a 3-month comparison, so next month then it'll be November, December, January, and so on. We also added in a % remaining in our budget, because that's what we look at too, and which Jerry pointed out, that we are, you know, where we're at during the fiscal year. So I did the same comparisons then for our activity fund, management fund. I combined SAVE with PEPL into one report, and then our food service fund 61. And so I will point out that in the SAVE / PEPL report, I did break out line 12. On the left-hand side, you can see line 12, because I wanted to make sure you saw where other state sources for sales tax is separate from other state sources that we would get. So you can see on the SAVE that in the month of November there, why is that so much higher? And that's because we got our catch-up payment from fiscal year, or from 2017-18, we get that final catch-up payment so that we get the appropriate amount. We get estimates all the way throughout the fiscal year until the Department of Revenue does their final tally, and then we get the balance. So that's why SAVE takes a little jump there in November. And I think all of capital projects, nutrition, management fund, they all are looking the way they should for where we're at in this fiscal year. We're not quite halfway. Say in the general fund, we're not quite halfway through the fiscal year, because our majority of our expense is salary and benefits. And so you would think, well, December is halfway through, but really February is where I consider halfway through, because we start paying a majority of our staff in September, not July. So that's another thing that we'll see as we go get into the rest of the fiscal year reports. The last two reports, I haven't really changed. The food service meals, we'll kind of start reporting that on a semi-annual basis rather than monthly. And then the unspent authorized budget report, it does change somewhat, but it's, you know, there's a certain point in time when we know what our expenditures are budgeted for, we know our miscellaneous income, it doesn't change that much then from that point on, so we'll probably report this more quarterly than on a monthly basis. But on that unspent authorized budget report, which is the last page, FY19, we're still within our unspent authorized budget percentage of 17%. Again, that's, you know, estimating now through December, but I think we're still on target in that respect. So if you have any questions later on, just feel free to email me or call me. And if there's something different you would want to see, another comparison, let me know that too. So other than that, that is my December report.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments for Tom, or feedback on the current format?
It's great to know, more than just 1 month and be able to compare, let's say, last year, November of last year to this year, November, and so on. So thank you.
You bet.
And it's cleaner. Thank you. So thanks.
All right, great. Well, that probably takes us through our official meeting in record time. Before we wind up tonight, one mention I would like to make is every day our entire district spends so much time making sure that our students get to school safely, that they're safe while they're there, and we get them home safely. But with the last, what feels like forever, but 3 weeks, as we have dealt with all this weather, and I know it's difficult to plan, I know it's difficult for families. If we only had a crystal ball and knew what the weather was going to be like, that would be helpful, but we don't. I would like to thank our maintenance staff, especially because they're starting at crazy hours of the night, 3 a.m., 2 a.m., and coming into work to make sure that lots are cleared and that sidewalks are taken care of. And then they're somewhat gone when everyone shows up and the snow magically disappears. I know we've had to haul snow out. We've had so much snow and not a place to put it. So I want to thank all of our staff that is working these crazy hours while we balance this weather to make sure our students are safe. We appreciate all the work that you do and the countless hours of sleep that you're probably giving up right now, including this evening as we monitor and watch the weather. So thank you for that. And Jerry, that goes for you as well. I know you spend a lot of early mornings out driving routes.
And, tomorrow morning, I just got notice, we have a 4:30 a.m. conference call at the National Weather Service, so.
Perfect. And do they have a crystal ball? That's the bigger question.
I'll tell you what, their crystal ball is getting pretty accurate. They really do amazing work.
So it takes a village, even with weather and our students getting them to and from school, even in what feels like this crazy schedule.
It is, and I couldn't agree more with your comments about the maintenance staff. Our custodians also they make sure that the areas are cleared, sidewalks are cleared. Our bus drivers had to have been so flexible in scheduling. It seems like every other day is a late starter and early out. I really appreciate that, and certainly not least of all, our teachers have really. This is when your schedule changes like it has this month. It's hard to keep continuity. It's hard to keep things flowing, and so I know how hard they've also have been to work during this time. So we can only hope that March gets here really fast.
Right. And April, for that matter, because even March makes me nervous at this point in time.
If I ever complain about the heat, I want someone to hit me up alongside the head.
Well, we'll all be patient. We can't change the weather, so we're gonna have to roll with it. But we thank you to our staff who does so much for our students, especially during these crazy winter days that we've seen. So.
And our favorite little groundhog said, early spring, so we hope he's right.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, a couple announcements of upcoming meetings that we have before we adjourn. So February 18th, it almost feels odd that I should say this, but we'll celebrate the President's Day holiday, and there will be no school. Doesn't matter what the weather's going to be like that day, we're not going to have school. So February 25th will be our next board meeting that we will all come together. It will be a planning meeting, and we will be at the Administration Center on 2900 Mulberry. And then March 11th, when we hope that it will start to turn to better weather, we will be back here at City Hall for a 7 p.m. meeting. Does anybody else have any other announcements for the good of the cause? And if not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So second.
Beautiful. And all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And the motion carries. Nathan and Aaron, thank you for joining us via technology tonight. We appreciate that a great deal. We appreciate your commitment to be able to carve out the time to do that.
Thanks, guys. Drive safely.
And we are adjourned.
Thanks, Nathan. Take care.